This video is for Chris and for anyone who wants to hear something about prayer and how A Course in Miracles or the Course talks about prayer. And we might distinguish between prayer and true prayer, just like Jesus in the Course distinguishes between our usual sense of what forgiveness is and true forgiveness, right? Because true forgiveness is not how we generally think of forgiveness. In fact, there is a supplement to A Course in Miracles that came after the Course was scribed already. You know, that Helen scribed the Course between the years 1965 and 1972. But after the Course was scribed, it still needed to be edited. And there was another pamphlet that came called the Psychotherapy, Purpose, Process, and Practice, right? And then a lot of people had questions, and there were certain specific questions that kept being asked. And so Helen, Jesus actually dictated another supplement to the Course called the Song of Prayer. And I have done a whole series on the Song of Prayer. I'm gonna put together a playlist so you can watch this whole series of videos I did where I read the Song of Prayer and talked about it, just like I've been doing with the text and the workbook and the manual. And I also read the psychotherapy supplement. So I'm going to put those all in playlists. But for right now, let's just talk about what is true prayer and what is true forgiveness. And in that supplement, the Song of Prayer, Jesus talks about how the way we practice forgiveness in this world generally is, he calls it forgiveness to destroy. And what he means by that is that generally the way we think of forgiveness in this world is, I'm going to forgive you even though you did me wrong. You did something terrible, basically unforgivable. But I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to take the high road. I'm going to be the better person, and I'm going to forgive you. And that's egoic, forgiveness, because you're not getting to the root, right? You're still on the surface of things. You're not getting to the root cause and the root understanding, which is that ultimately, there is no need to forgiveness. God is only love. And whatever anyone did or didn't do to us is really like a smokescreen. It's a distraction from seeing your brother as yourself and seeing the oneness. And if you let it upset you and you let it if you get angry and feel all these horrible things, and then later you forgive, well, that's nice. And that there's nothing, it's not like there's anything wrong with that. It just does not get to the root. It does not address what Jesus is really getting at in the Course, which is the atonement principle, which is that there is no need for forgiveness. We are still one with God. That has never changed. That could never change. And so anything else that is upsetting us means that we're making the original error real, meaning we're making the thought of separation real in our minds. So you could see how this applies really to everything, even the smallest thing, right? Whenever you have the smallest bit of unforgiveness or grievance, Jesus uses that word grievance, it's the same thing. So the same thing also applies to prayer. You could say there's the prayer prayer to destroy, right? Like forgiveness to destroy. There's prayer that is judgmental, and most of our prayer is that way, because when we pray, we're asking for something, and we're basically saying, well, I know what I need, right? I know what's best for me. And Jesus is saying in the Course, no, you don't. You don't. You really don't know. And you think that you do, and that's the problem, is that you think you know what you want and what you need. That's why, if you go back to the Gospels, in the Garden of Gethsemane, before Jesus is about to be crucified, right? He's going to Jerusalem, and he says that prayer. He says, God, take this cup from me, meaning don't make me go through with this, right? But then he ends with, but your will, not my will, thy will, not my will. And that's essentially what the Course is getting at too, is that's the ultimate prayer, is you let go of your little needs and your little wants, and you open to the will of, the divine will, which is really your will, but you're out of touch with your own will, which is why you think you need and want certain things, right? And you could also see how that is endless. Like, wanting and needing things never ends. You will never be satisfied. No one will ever be satisfied, right? We will keep wanting and needing, until we kick the bucket, and maybe even beyond, right? And the same with our problems. The same with our suffering. It never ends, right? Until we get to the root cause. And the atonement principle is that root cause. It's saying, nothing ever happened. You are still as love created you, as God created you. Separation is an illusion, and you've made the wrong choice. You've chosen the ego, but you can unchoose. That's not a sin. That's just a mistake you made. But you can undo that, right? And that's what the Course is helping us to do, is to undo our mistaken belief system that we have accepted as our own, which is basically the egoic system based in separation, egoic thought system based in separation. So on a practical level, prayer, let's talk about just prayer. Does that mean that we shouldn't pray, or that we shouldn't pray for people, or that we shouldn't pray for things, or that we shouldn't pray for good health and prosperity and shouldn't pray for other people who are sick or who are suffering? I don't think, this is not to say that. It's not that you can't do those things. It's just that those are not the highest forms of prayer. There's higher forms of prayer, just like there's higher forms of forgiveness, and there's higher forms of, you could say, like charity, even though the Course doesn't talk a lot about charity. But for example, with charity, you might give something to someone and say, well, now I just want you to remember me every time you use that. You give something, remember me every time you use that. Or someone who gives a lot of money and then wants a plaque in their name or something like that. Those are not the highest form. It's still charity, right? It's still a nice thing, but there's strings attached. Whereas the highest form of charity would be you do something completely anonymously just because it's the right thing to do, and not because you want anything from it. That would be the highest form of charity. And same thing with prayer is if your ego is out of the way and it feels like the right thing to do, then yeah, pray. That's wonderful. Just don't be attached. Don't pray feeling like it's got to be this way. You can pray, but it might be that's not. Just don't pray expecting any kind of result, but pray just because it feels like the right thing to do. But even deeper than that is prayer, which is just prayer that you will accept the truth, right? That would be the ultimate prayer. It's just the prayer to be in complete acceptance of the truth. That would be the true prayer. Not that, again, other forms of prayer are not quite there, but it's not to say not to do them. it's just to say, just understand what you're doing when you're doing it. Like, all right, I'm praying, but I know that this is not the highest form of prayer. There's a prayer where I accept with perfect peace, perfect joy, perfect love what is, right? I'm in acceptance of what is, and I'm not trying to force life to be what I think it should be, and I don't need anyone, including myself, to be any different than what they are, right? And I'm not trying to orchestrate life to fit my own idea of what it should be. That would be, getting to the deeper and the higher. You're going up the ladder of forgiveness, the ladder of prayer, right? The highest form is where you don't need the ladder anymore, right? The ladder is gone, and there's just, you rest in God, you rest in the truth. So that's the same thing with prayer. I just saw 11:11, so I'm gonna finish this up. I hope this is helpful. Everything I said was based more or less in A Course in Miracles, and I would love your thoughts and feedback on this. I think it's good. The last thing I will say is one of the most important things I think that Jesus says in the Course is to ask yourself about everything. What is it for? That, just those words. What is it for? And you can ask yourself about any thought you have, anything you say or do. Why am I doing this? What is it for? Am I serving? Am I in service of love, or am I in service of fear? Am I in service of spirit or ego? Is this bringing me closer to my goal, which is to know the truth, or is it taking me further away? And you will know the answer, right? The answer is, if you're honest with yourself, you'll know what it is, right? You just have to look into your own ulterior motives for whatever you're doing, and just say, why am I doing this? What am I really think I'm gonna get from this? And that's the bell that has just rung, because the little guy's coming. All right, want to see him? Is that you, buddy? Want to say hi?
Hi. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.